Welcome to the Twinkl Talks EYFS podcast. Working in the early years is busy, funny, messy, and exhausting. Join me, Shána, some of the Twinkl EYFS team, special guest speakers, and other early years practitioners as we talk honestly about our experiences. Whether you're listening for CPD, on your commute, or to help you relax, Twinkl EYFS will share everything you need to know about all things early years. Hello, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Lovely to have you. For our lovely listeners who haven't maybe heard your voice before, would you like to introduce yourself to our lovely listeners?
I would. I'm Michelle. I'm the long job title incoming. Parents Early Years Educational Content Lead at Twinkl.
Oh, what does that mean?
Lots of things. Basically, I'm in charge in making sure that the content we offer at Twinkl is sort of fit for purpose for parents with children aged 2 to 5 to support their learning and everything at home.
Love that. It's really important that we include our parents in the curriculum and the stuff that their children are going through, right? So your experience as a parent / early years educator between 2 and 5, what's the history?
All of the above.
Yep.
Yeah. So I taught in mainly reception for 9-10 years. I have 2 children who are now 7 and 5. So at one point I had 2 children between 2 and 5. So I do have both professional and personal experience in this area. And obviously that difference between like being a parent of that age group and a teacher of that age group.
That is, you know what, I'm looking forward to this conversation because for the listeners, her eye was twitching when she said when she had 2 children in a fair dues. So
Yeah.
you got a wealth of experience that I can't wait to delve into. Because today we are specifically talking about the importance of communication between parents and carers. And I feel like this is obviously a given. This is something that, teachers, educators, not just in early years, are expected, to have that communication with this stakeholder group, as I like to call it. But I do think, in particular, for early years, A, it's really important, but B, we kind of do it really well, and I kind of just want to like show off, like that this is how the early years communicate with parents and carers. Key stage 1 to 5, what are you doing? In a non-gloaty kind of
Yeah.
way. Yeah. So we'll start with the basics. Why is it so important to communicate well, not just communicate well with our parents and carers in early years?
Well, I don't know. It kind of sounds like what you've just said. We literally set that foundation, don't we, for the rest of their kind of experience of school for the children and the parents, obviously. So, like, if they have a good experience with us, then you would hope it's going to help set them up going forward to have like good relationships with the teachers for the rest of the child's school experience, if you like. And obviously, like, there's a lot of research into it suggests that like parental engagement raises academic achievement and all that, like in the long term. But even just on the day to day, isn't it, like just knowing what's going on in those little people's big lives is really, really important.
It really is. And I think maybe what makes the difference in the early years is that we're not just communicating their educational progress, their, where they are. It's also really quite pastoral.
Yeah.
In a couple of ways, because obviously it's pastoral for the child because this is their first school experience, but also for like the parents and carers, if it's their first child, or regardless, even if it's their third child, this is their child's first experience, and so the parents and carers themselves are not maybe going to know what they need to know, or, what normal, quote unquote, is for school and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I found that like, oh, this is going to sound bad on him, but like with my husband, like he really relied on me kind of already knowing what sort of is expected sort of within the early years age range. And so like, he wouldn't necessarily come to like the phonics meetings and stuff, but and yeah, I think it kind of took me by surprise a bit because I hadn't really thought that like, well, yeah, he doesn't know what is expected at this age. So we really need to make sure we offer those things, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things I noticed when I was engaging with parents when I was a teacher and leader was, you can't remember yourself what it is like in early years, right? No one can remember. I just remember having a lovely time dancing around a maypole in nursery, and that is one of my most vivid memories, and that was great. But do I remember the curriculum? No, I don't. Maybe, as you get older in year 2, blah, 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 yes, I remember learning about the magic key, blah, blah, blah. So if I was a parent, I had a vague idea of what to expect. But do I know what to expect if I send my child to a day nursery at 18 months? No, I don't. What? Um, so that was a massive thing.
Yeah, and for a lot of parents, it's the first time that they've left the child as well, right?
Mm,
So kind of having that good communication is vital so that they know that like their child is safe when they're
right?
not there. Because
Literally.
even as an ex-teacher, leaving your child kind of at school and going from even at the if they were grandparents, you sort of know what they're going to be up to. At school, it feels different. It's really strange.
Well, it does, because also it could just be you, your child, and possibly siblings at home. Oh, when they get to school, it's like 30. Yeah, and you worry. You're like, hang on a minute, is my child? Do you know my child is there? I am not a parent, but this is the experiences and the feedback I've had from the parents and carers that have been in my care, kind of thing. So I'm really excited to have you here because, like you say, you've had the experience of both sides. So from your experience, what is it that parents and carers like want to know, want us as educators to communicate to them?
I think it kind of goes back to that safety thing a bit, but also that my child.
Mm,
One of the things my children's school does really well is sort of like the head teacher knows them and is always there to sort of greet them on a morning and will say something like, my daughter's got a thing about taking a pretend phone at the moment, and he's like, oh, have you had your call already? And he makes a little joke about it, and yet that they are appreciated as their whole selves, I think. Which obviously is what we want to do as early as teachers, really, as well. But I think making it known to the parents that that, and that can be, that doesn't have to be like a formal report or anything. It's as simple as, when they're coming in on a morning, being like, oh, you've got your lovely hairband on again, or or just those little comments that you have, like that little dialogue you have at drop off and things. And yeah, I think that's ultimately it. Well, the main thing anyway.
the main thing that is that they're safe and that they are valued. What do you reckon? I mean, I suppose this might be harder for you to answer because you have seen the teacher side of it. But what do parents would want to be communicated in terms of the education side?
Like sort of how, like, oh, you mean like how much information is too much information
Well,
sort of
yeah, a
thing?
little bit, because to be honest, again, I didn't know half of this stuff until I became an early years specialist and got taught it at uni and did all of the degree and all of the qualifications and stuff. So sometimes it's my worry of, am I overwhelming them with this amount of information, or do they want to know like child development psychology?
Yeah, that's a really hard one because I think it's really personal, isn't it? To that parent, you've got parents who will sit up till all hours, like reading all sorts, thinking about me and my husband again, that I am that one. And he is very much well, why are they doing this? And I go, well, it could be. Blah, 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 blah. And he goes, oh, okay. Um,
It's better to have
so
a balance. Yeah.
yeah, I think parents want you do want sort of to know, are we on the right track? Are they okay? Are they learning sort of at a developmentally appropriate rate? But I do think it can be a bit overwhelming. I've sort of ended up being a bit of a middleman at times between like school and then my non-teacher friends,
Yes. Yes.
to sort of like translate some of that and say like, don't worry about that bit, or this is the most important part to focus on right now. Because I think sometimes, like, even though like those phonics meetings and stuff can be really helpful, it can also be a little bit intimidating. So I guess from like sort of two teachers, it's thinking really carefully about like what you put out to parents and when.
Mm, no, I think that's definitely one thing I was like hyper aware of when I was still teaching, because I really, really wanted to empower the families, because, you'd always, and you'd know which ones wanted that kind of information because they'd actively approach you. Um, but I was also then really scared because, as you probably have already guessed, Michelle, I'm a little bit of a nerd. So I can get really deep into this. Like I adore the early years, and I'm fascinated by child development, and it's such an important thing. I studied it for 4 years. It's one of my passions, and I would love to empower parents to do that. But then part of me's like, okay, Shána, you need to chill out. Like they just want to know that their kid's having a great time and that they've got friends.
But then sometimes with your teacher brain, sorry to jump in, you kind of also like know when it would really help some parents.
Yes, because I also, right, I do not want children because I think parents and carers are like superhumans. Raise it. Look. I cannot even take care of myself, let alone another human child, like a human being that when they are born they can't move, walk, talk. No,
Yeah,
that's
that's briefly that bit.
right. Like, power to you. It is a superpower. I know I do not possess, and that's okay. So I just feel bad because I had to do all these qualifications to become a teacher. There ain't no like course to be a parent. It's just okay, off you go, bye-bye. You've had the congratulations, muzzle tough. You're on your own.
Yeah. And I think as well with that, obviously before I had my kids, I taught, and people kind of assume that you then know everything from that like birth to whatever age, and you're like, no, this is still brand new.
Did it make it worse because you felt that pressure? Like, actually, I should know. Why don't I know? Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit on myself, but then also like kind of reflecting back on maybe some of the things I've said to parents as a teacher, like, have you tried this and things? And then I'm going, was that the right thing to say? I don't know. I'm trying my best, as everybody is, but it's very strange having both hats on, I suppose.
It is. I feel like it's kind of a blessing and a curse situation for 4 years. God love years. Which is why you're here to impart knowledge, but also to like show the quote unquote human side of us as teachers. Like I really hope we've got early years parents and carers that are listening to this. And you're right, there are going to be some that feel intimidated by just the entire school process, right? We're human too. We don't know. We don't know. Sometimes we can advise you. But each child is so unique and so different. Yes, we can give you an idea of where we think they are developmentally, but the fluctuation between that birth to 5 years is so big. It's not like an upward slope. They have peaks and troughs, and it could go blooming anywhere for all we know. At the minute, what they might be. At the minute, they might not be. But in 3 weeks, they might have caught up. Like, the brain and the way it develops in this first 5 years is so complex. It's really hard to give parents a definitive, "Yes, your child's doing this," or "No, your child's not," because it's not how the brain works, and that must be really unsettling for parents and carers to be like, "Well, what's going on with my child then?"
Yeah. Yeah, but then as well, like you say, it's really hard as a teacher to be trying to reassure a
Oh, it is.
parent
Yeah.
that this is okay.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you might have those conversations that where, obviously I taught in reception a lot. You're teaching like letter formation, reading, everything, and it's they're mixing the B's and D's up. I think they're
Oh,
dyslexic.
yes.
Having that really like trying to like have that sensitive conversation that
Yes.
we're just learning. It
Yeah.
takes time,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
definitely.
not sounding patronizing.
That's another thing as well. Yeah. That was I always remember, I think especially it was difficult for our multilingual families because they would maybe come and say, "Oh, we're doing our best and we're teaching them English and we're only speaking English at home now, but they don't seem to be talking at all. What are we doing wrong? What's wrong with my child?" And the amount of conversations I've had being like, "Please don't worry. This is technically something called the silent stage. It's actually part of the development of learning another language. Please do not stop talking your home language. Like, please, like, don't replace it. It's just as important." But they were just trying to do the right thing, weren't they? And unless you know the biology and the sciencey stuff of what the children are going through, it's quite scary for parents and carers.
Having time to have those little conversations as well, though, I think is hard and important.
That's one of the biggest ones as well, because there is so much going on at this age, and I mean, I had 44 nursery children at in one of my cohorts. I want to have those deep and meaningful conversations with these parents and carers because, and I know this without even having to ask every early years practitioner in the UK, we care about each and every child that comes through our door, and we will get to make connections and relationships with these children that other educators higher up in the school journey and other key stages don't have capacity to. It's not that they don't want to, but the way that the national curriculum and the school system works higher up is they do not have time. It's you've got a timetable, you've got to do this, 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 and oh, okay, 3 p.m. goodbye. Like they don't have the capacity to make those relationships the way we do in early years, and we really take that seriously. So finding the time to communicate with parents and carers, that was always really heavy on my heart as well. But so now I kind of want to appeal to your teacher side now. What do teachers and educators in early years also want to know from parents and carers? Because communication is a two-way thing. It is, yes, we've got a lot to share as educators from what's going on in the school day, but we actually really need to know quite a bit of information as well. So what kind of things as a teacher did you want to hear from your parents and carers?
I think you want that kind of background a bit for the child. You want to know about kind of the logistics, if that's the right word, of their like family life, who's in the house. Are you, yeah, what's your family dynamic like? What's culture like? What are your child's likes and dislikes? Those sheets that I think we used to send out, like the sheets saying like tell me about yourself, and it would be like to do with the parent would fill it out essentially, and the amount you wouldn't get back
Yes.
was really frustrating, because actually that information is really helpful and it helps us get to know the child and basically starts that relationship, doesn't it, with the whole family. You want to know things that are going to affect that child and how you can help them.
Yeah, massively. For me, it was basic needs. That's all I need to know. Tell me what they can do for themselves, what they can't, what they need help with, what their fears are. Have they actually been outside of the house before, especially because of COVID, obviously, and that, you know, um, basic needs. I couldn't give a monkeys about the rest. Oh, they can write their name, but marvelous. That's an added bonus, right? But all of that I can do in school. That is literally my job. That's my job. So you don't need to tell me any of that. I need to know your child's basic needs, because ultimately I want them to feel safe and secure. And you're so right about that making that first connection, because it's not just for the educators and the parents and carers that there's a benefit of good communication. It's for the benefit of the child. If we communicate effectively with each other, the child is ultimately going to benefit. So we can give a lot of information to the parents and carers as educators, but we need it as well. Like, we've never met your children before. They've not been to school before. They're going to be absolutely petrified. They're going to be left with strangers, and they're going to be left with other children who they have no idea, right? This is their first experience. It's quite a big, event, life event.
Well, like if they're coming into reception, you need to know, are they coming from a busy nursery, or are they coming from literally being at home
Mm,
with mum or
it's
dad?
a big difference.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And also for me as well, my biggest thing was I honestly just want the truth. And that sounds really strange, but I'll explain. There's there's this fear that we are going to judge the parents and carers that come in and say, right, we want this information because we want to judge how much of a good parent and carer you are. Not, not at all. No way. Not a chance. No way. It doesn't matter. Like I said earlier, the brain and the body develop in such crazy ways between birth and 5. Anything could happen at any stage. So there is no judgment here. I just need to know where they are at so I know how to support them. My biggest example being toilet training.
That's exactly what jumped into my brain when you said
Right,
that.
exactly, because the amount of parents and carers that have not told me the truth about their toileting journey, I would be a millionaire. And again, there is no judgment that they did that, because I can see that's out of fear. They don't wanna be judged thinking, "Oh my goodness, my child isn't toilet trained and they're coming into whatever year." I I don't I don't care either way, whether they are or whether they're not. What I need to know is the truth so that I know where the child is and I can support them, because the worst, and it has happened a few times, the worst scenario is we think the child is toilet trained, and so we think they're more independent than they are, and then they have an accident and they get embarrassed, or we find that they
Hidden things.
that is the biggest. It's the
Mhm.
hiding and and you can see the poor children, because then they're
Yeah,
feeling that shame. That is what I want to avoid. I do not care either way whether they are or they're not. Just tell me which one, so I know I can support them, because it's the worst feeling when you're like, oh, and that poor little child
I
thinks,
completely agree.
oh, it's awful. So
Especially
I
when,
know,
if you do know the truth and then you're working on it together, like
right.
it gives such a more positive experience to that child.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is no shame, right? And honestly, it does make it more difficult for us when we don't know, because if we are not prepared, say for example, we've got budgets and things, or we need to work out logistics because of safeguarding when changing nappies or things like that, we have to spend time doing risk assessments and working that stuff out, depending on how many children we know, for example, are toilet trained or not. If we get hit by surprise, we then have to figure it all out again, and it's creating a lot more work for us that's unnecessary, because we promise you we are not judging you in any way. We just want to make sure that we are providing the right things for you and your child, and that you're not alone. Like you said, like I had open conversations, and it's like, that's fine, we'll help you. Just tell us where you're at. Oh, I really have tried. We believe you. That's not what this conversation is about. That's not what it's about. What have you tried? Let's see if it's in a different environment, it might work. This weird things happen because sometimes they do things at school that they don't do at home, vice versa. It's this weird thing. It's fine. Just tell me what your techniques are. That's cool. Because you know your children best. We don't know them yet. So we want your knowledge. We want your expertise. That's that thing, isn't it? Of they think we're the expertise because we've got the degrees and we're the teachers and we're the educators. Yeah, we did the training. I'm not going to knock my training. I did it for a reason. But you know your child.
Yeah,
I don't.
exactly.
So the honesty part for me, just tell me the honest truth. Where they at? Where are you at? Because if you're finding this a struggle, tell us. We're not just here for the kids. Like if perhaps, children are really struggling with settling in, which is
Yeah.
obviously a thing, transition and getting them in, tell us. Because there's things that we can do. For example, they love school, but it's just getting there and they hate it. But we can set up something where, they can take their favorite toy home and then they can bring it back, and that helps them come to school because they've got something to look for. All of these techniques that we can do and support parents and carers to help them. And it's a shame because I'm not sure parents and carers will know that because they're too afraid to ask, which is understandable. But please come and ask.
It goes like it all starts from having that, I suppose, atmosphere within your school, your setting of openness, approachability, which I suppose it's a whole school thing. I mean, I don't know what, like, sort of settings like you worked in the past, but I think when you're in a reception as part of, and you're in like a big, like 2, 3, 4 elementary school up to year 6, it feels very different to a small rural school potentially. I've worked in both, and I think it's kind of like sometimes it can feel a bit like a conveyor belt, like at drop off and things, and you don't really have the time to have these conversations.
I used to dread drop off and pick up because I knew,
Yeah.
because I'd want to have all these conversations, and I felt so mad because we had like that double glass thing so that we could see out but they couldn't see in, so we'd let all the parents in at the end of the day and I could see which ones were desperate, and I was like, oh no, they all want to talk to me. I want to talk to you too, but I can't. I've got 44 children to release, and also I've got a staff meeting.
I know. I'm guilty of rushing through it because, especially like on a morning, I think that's the one I found more difficult. I always feel like after school was a bit more chill, but on a morning when you're trying to get 30 odd children through the door and on the carpet in 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and you've got people talking, and these things it's really important that they didn't sleep very well last night, or that they couldn't find something that they really wanted to bring in today. Like, they are vital for that 4-year-old, but I need you through the door. It's really hard.
The janitor's going to shut the gate and you're going to be locked in 3 minutes. You need to get out or they'll come for you. Yeah, I know, it's so hard.
And then you're trying to balance that. It almost felt like, to me, I was a different teacher at drop off and pick up. Like, the mornings, it was like, morning, through the door, da, 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 da. After school, I've got a little bit more time. Can have a little bit of a nice chat. Oh, they've done this. Like, it's been a lovely day. So, yeah.
A little bit of an insight into our life. Yeah, that morning rush at 8:40 when the doors are, you're like, all right. We used to, with my nursery nurses, we used to get ready. Like, we used to warm up. Like, right, let's go. We can do this. We got this.
But I only really was thinking about, when I was like thinking about sort of the topic for today and stuff, and I was thinking, being all kind of sanctimonious and saying like, we want to know if they can't find their favorite teddy bear, or we want to know this, and then thinking like, actually in reality I do want to know it, and I'm really sorry if it doesn't come across that I want to know it sometimes.
Yeah. It's look, it's not easy, and I actually quite enjoy showing that more human side of being an early years educator, because some parents and carers got it, and they would see us flapping around. Oh, especially when it was like transition or it was their first time. Oh my goodness, it would be like pandemonium. There'd be coats and stuff all over the floor. There'd be children snotting, screaming, crying, because obviously it was quite traumatic with them. And then the parents and carers would be like, "You're right," and I'm like, "Yeah, just leave, save yourself." But But yeah, sometimes it is about timing. It is important that we know that about your child, but please not right now because Zoe over there is trying to escape because she's missing her mother. Please leave so I can shut the gate so this child is safe.
Yeah, it's so tricky. And then kind of coming out of my teacher head into my parent one, I've also been the one like trying to talk to the teacher and then being like, I really shouldn't have done that then. That was not the right time. But then I suppose that leads on to like the best way to communicate. I think there isn't a best way to do
I
it,
was
is
just
there?
thinking that like we try our best, but how is it, yeah, that we can communicate with each other? I
Because
suppose
I
it
mean, there's
depends.
so many ways now as well. Like you've got like the apps where you can message and
Yes.
things, but then I know some schools don't really like you to message. It's more a school to parent thing than a parent to school thing, which completely understand because you can be inundated. But I suppose it's, yeah. I mean, what did you find like helpful?
Well, this is the thing, I'm trying to remember all the stuff that we did, but in a couple of my settings. So in terms of like, well, let me start from the beginning. Communicating like the school. Do you remember at the beginning when like they first start coming into the nursery or the school and you get that big admission pack and it's like the size of a blooming camel because it's so heavy. Like that's really overwhelming for parents. So my first thing was when we had like an open presentation day, I would then also do an extra one and set out time for those parents who may be feeling overwhelmed or English is not their first language or they have learning needs and need support filling out those forms for a start. So I was able to do that. We had a school website and so our cohorts had their own like class pages and that's what I would update every week with like the educational side, like, oh, this week we learned, so this is what, and then like have some pictures of what we were doing. We'd send home every half term like a little curriculum overview so they knew. So this is sort of the educational side part in terms of what I was communicating with them.
Which is kind of easier in a way because you can have it in that plan. I
Yes, you
send
can
this
plan for
message.
that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
update the blog every
Yes,
Friday straight after the kids leave. Like,
exactly. Yeah. um And we had a digital learning journal. So we would always upload at least one observation a week of every child. And with the particular platform that we had, the parents and carers could comment on them, which was really lovely. It was like its own little private social platform. It was quite sweet. But also the parents and carers could upload observations as well. So we always would actively encourage them to like if they went on a trip or they did something at home and they were really proud, like put it on the digital journal so that we can see it as well. So that was really nice. We in terms of like the day-to-day stuff, I was lucky in that I was able to have like a class phone that we could ring down to the office and they were quite good at sending texts because they've got like this text automated system. So if I needed to send something out to the entire class, they would do it. Or if I needed to send like a text saying, I don't know, because we had key worker groups. So for everyone in Tiger key worker group, they would get a specific text message saying, "Oh yes, Tiger group are doing cooking tomorrow. Don't forget to," something like that.
what about stuff like I think that's really cool having a phone in your classroom to send those messages. Because I was thinking about things like, when one of them falls asleep in the reading corner,
Oh, it's so adorable. But yes,
and then you're like, well, it's like 2 o'clock, but they are flat out and they need to go home. But I am in this room with 30 children and I haven't got a TA, and how am I going to do this? Um, so for me, it was like sending an email and kind of hoping, or sticking my head out the door and hoping somebody walked past and could go to the office. But I suppose you had that covered.
well, in some of them, yeah. In other ones, because it was at least a 2 or 4 elementary school, we could have like a partner teacher or partner team so that we could ask them to support us if not. It's just that it's really difficult to say. what you can do, because obviously if there's like safety procedures, we've got safety procedures if we need an extra or SLT, we've got this like little red card thing and they go and get there's procedures in place for that. But like you say, if a child needs to go home, or if a child maybe was struggling, not needing to go home, but maybe they just had a bit of a poorly day, they're a bit siffly, or they weren't themselves, or you had to you have to communicate that there was a little disagreement between a couple of children. It wasn't massive, but those things are still important to communicate.
Yeah, when's the best time to do that? Because do you do that? And I'm going to say these things, and I've probably done them all for right or wrong. Do you do it as a quick aside at the end of the day? Do you do a phone call? Do you do that phone call out of the blue? Or do you say, I'm going to give you a ring, and then have
Right?
them panicking the whole way home? It's so
Literally.
hard.
Literally, and that's what go through my mind every time, because it's like, no, I won't text them to say, "Can you stay back?" Because, like, how terrifying would that be as a parent? Like, what's my 3-year-old possibly done? Like,
Well, I've had that. I had that with my little boy when he was in reception, and like it was in the summer term, and I'd never had it before, and it was like the fear of God. Like,
yeah, definitely. But then also at the same time, I think as well, what I found tricky was, we know at this age group there are going to be lots of disagreements, because the children are learning social skills, they're learning how to talk to each other, to share, to take turns. So I mean, it was daily, 10 times daily that there were disagreements in early years. So for us, it's not a big thing. But then there's having to explain it to the parents and carers at the end. And I don't want to downplay it as if it wasn't important, because obviously it's important to the parents and carers. But for us, it's very normal. And I'm not going to make it seem bigger than it is.
mm-hmm.
I also don't want to downplay how important it is. But this is something that happens all the time. Yes, so and so snatched so and so's thing off of you. I know, but because the worst thing that happens as well is the parent and carers come in the next day and they go, "My son or daughter has come home and told me that so and so has done this and this," and I'm like,
And you
"No,
didn't tell me.
yeah, why didn't you tell me? What did you do about it?" And it can be a case of, A, that didn't happen,
Yeah.
because a lot of the times it didn't, which is, again, we're not calling children liars. It's they're in that stage where they are learning to communicate, and they are learning boundaries, social boundaries, those kind of things where they might say something because it gets a certain reaction, blah, blah, blah. It's just part of natural development. They're just exploring their social boundaries, right? And I can defiantly say, yeah, no, that didn't happen. Well, my child said it did. I appreciate that. I not calling your child a liar. I absolutely am not. But perhaps maybe they haven't got the right communication to explain what happened. It might be that. Perhaps it's something that, but I was defiant. I was there. It did not happen. Or, yes, it did happen. But don't worry. It's not like a big thing. Like, I was the, it's
It was
the
part and
social bit.
parcel of the play,
Yeah.
and it wasn't an issue to be dealt with.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, it was
Yeah.
a,
We dealt with it, and we actually learned some social, and part,
yeah.
one of the biggest ones I used to get is, when that happened, and in my brain, I'd be like, "Yeah, but your kid started it." Like, "I'm really sorry," and look, I'm really like, how do I no children is an angel, it's fine, like, your child is not in trouble, but this child reacted this way because your child did this, but this is just all part of how children learn to socialize. But you can't say to a parent or carer, "Yeah, your kid started it, bro, what do you expect?" Like, I can't say that. It's so tricky to try and explain, like, it's okay, this is just how children are learning how to socialize. Yes, they might have taken that toy, but that's because that kid had it first. Actually, it was your kid that took it, it's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I am very aware that this whole run has probably not answered any questions that anybody might have.
No, but it's a
But
deep insight. It's a deep insight into, actually, this is the reality of early years, and communicating actually what what is really going on as well, because it is super important that we have these conversations, not only with the parents and carers, but with the children as well, and we're all just doing our best.
exactly.
I think that's all you can ask, really.
Just thinking about the sheer amount of things that you know, when we were first talking about communication between parents and teachers, I was a bit like, oh, we're going to have enough to say, and actually, yes, turns out we do.
Yes, and the thing is as well is I hope this sort of like encourages our listeners. There really isn't a right way to do it. It really is dependent on the school, the setting, what they've, what the child's needs are, what the parent and carer's needs are, and just the fact that, you try and that they're trying something is going to be enough. There is no perfect answer. But know that if we're doing it together, it's gonna be a lot easier anyway, like, regardless of how we communicate, if we're both trying from both sides, hey, we're gonna do our best.
Yeah, and I think kind of thinking about what some of the examples we've given, it it works when everybody's kind of working towards like a solution rather than the blame game almost. If it's if you know, even if you're not coming at it from exactly the same standpoint, as long as you kind of work trying to work together to get to wherever you need to be. I think as with everything early years, you need to be flexible.
Right? Every day's different, so nothing phases us, like, it's fine, just talk to us, we talk to you, we'll get to the end of it eventually, it's all good.
Yeah, yeah.
So before we finish, is there any, obviously we've talked quite a lot, but like, is there any like particularly really funny interactions you've had, maybe as a parent or a carer or an educator, that's not like bad, but was just the funniest thing that you had to communicate
Oh,
or has been communicated to you?
I mean, there's probably been some that I can't that are going to jump into my head at like midnight tonight. Um, I think that the funniest ones it's when you have to say to a parent, we've had to have a little chat about, I don't know, putting stones up your nose
Yeah.
or I don't know. When you have those moments and you're like, I can't believe I'm having to say this
Yep.
to somebody.
Yep.
Um, but I've had that as a parent as well, like having to go to the teacher and being like, I don't know. Yes, I know that her hands are covered in pen. It won't come off. I'm really sorry. And you feel so silly, but I feel like I have to say it because I feel
Yeah.
like I need them to know I'm not a bad parent.
Yep. No, I get
It's
that.
just my daughter has a particular fondness for like body adorning her body with stuff. She's going to be covered in tattoos when
She is
she's older.
canvas. Yeah. No, I love it. I think I've got, one where I had to communicate with a parent and then another when they communicate with me. So the first one, um, actually it's happened quite a few times, but, gorgeous, gorgeous little child, was really, like, well behaved and all this, and all of a sudden one day came out with the Fuck word really loudly and definitely out of context. Like, they didn't use it as a swear word or a bad word. It was the funniest, right, so obviously, we would never tell a child off any like, for that anyway, because they're not gonna have the understanding of what a swear word even is, right? So, we had to have a little chat and be like, "Oh, yeah, don't use that word." But, bit more,
What was the word you just said? Sort of,
mm,
yeah.
bit fleshed out, yeah. But then it was at the end of the day, and obviously that this family were very, sort of, proud of how, you know, uh, well behaved the child is and stuff, and, wouldn't say boo to a goose. Lovely family. And I had to come over and tell them, really sorry I've had to talk to your child today because they've said a word. And the mortification on their face, I felt so bad. And they were like, "What word?" And I was like, "FUCK." And they were like, "What? What? Oh my goodness! Oh, where did they get that from?" And I was like, "Well, they didn't get it. They didn't get it from here. That's not the curriculum." Oh, we wouldn't. Look. You're adults. You can swear. Like what you say is up to you. Nothing. And I said, "Look, they didn't do it. They clearly had no idea what this word meant. But just to let you know, it's all right. They weren't told off. They weren't put, they're not in trouble. But you kind of need to know that they might start saying that at home, and we don't want you to think that we taught your child to say that. It's not
Today in
what it's like."
phonics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. So that was always fun. And then
Did
another
you do
one.
that out of a week, like curiosity?
Yeah,
Did you do that face to face?
of course I did. Yeah,
Like, did you ask them to wait, like,
yeah.
at the end of the
I
day?
felt so bad as well because usually they're like at the back of the line for pickup, but they were right at the front this time, and I was like,
Oh, of
"No!" So obviously
course,
they
of
had to.
course.
I know they had to stand there and feel the shame of all the other parents and carers. Oh, that family's being kept at the end of the day. Oh, the gossip that probably ensued. I felt so bad for them, but I was like, "It's fine. Like everything's fine. Just a heads up." So I've had to do that a few times. And then another time, I did something. It was an accident, though. Okay, I'm setting this up really badly. And if you've listened to the podcast episodes before, I think I have told this story before, so you can feel free to zone out of my voice. But I said that I uploaded every. Well, actually, at this school, it was every half term the curriculum for what we were doing the next term. So I'd uploaded this new curriculum of what we were doing in reception the next term. Did it on a Friday, I think, pressed publish, and then, went on my merry way and had a lovely weekend. Come in the Monday morning and a parent's like, "Oh, can I speak to you?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. What's wrong?" And I thought it was something to do with their child. No. I checked the website, and you've uploaded the curriculum, haven't you? Yeah, for this term. Yeah. Is there a problem? Well, in the maths section where you said we're focusing on learning how to count above 20, the word count is missing the letter O. And it took me a second, and I was like, "Count, missing the letter." No! And they were like, "Yeah, that word's on the website." I was like, "Oh my God." But I was like, "But oh my God, I'm so sorry. I spelled check it and everything." And they were like, "Yes, but that word is a real word,
I was
Rosie."
gonna say,
And I was
yeah.
like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." So they were so good, and they didn't like complain about me or anything. It wasn't like they were just a heads up. And I was like, "Oh my
Recognise it was
God."
just human error.
Oh, it was so embarrassing. I was like, "I've put the worst possible word on the planet on our curriculum plan for a reception class." Oh my
I've
God.
gotta say, I am blushing for you at the
I
moment.
I died on the inside. So, yeah, don't worry, parents and carers. You think you're the only ones that have those kind of conversations. No, we do as well. Yeah.
That is amazing.
I know, right? It'll literally follow me to the grave. So
Yeah, that'll be one that you are still waking up, like, panicking about in your 80s. Like, "Oh, no,
honestly,
remember that day?"
if I'm like editing the podcast and putting, a description on it, or I'm doing things for Twinkl social media, I will triple check how I spell the word count every time, and I will never not do it ever again, honestly.
But what a lovely demonstration of the good relationship you had built with that parent,
I appreciate.
that they could come and say that to you. They
They
didn't
were good.
march to the head teacher's office.
Honestly, because I had a few that would have done that. So I'm like, "Thank God it was you and not someone else. That thank you for being so gracious. It was a genuine mistake. Thank you. I'm going to go and change it now and go cry in a hole." So yeah, all good. Oh, what a delightful conversation we've had today, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, obviously, you are a wealth of experience and knowledge, all things parents in early years. If our lovely listeners would like to learn some more, where can we find you? That sounded really creepy. I'm really sorry. That's like I was gonna try and stalk you and find you in your home. I meant like professionally. What? Oh, oh, see, look, this is gonna haunt me now forever. Please continue, Michelle.
Sorry for giving you nightmares for the weekend. Yeah, so basically, Twinkl Parents are at Twinkl Parents on everything. We don't have a particular like early years place as yet. Maybe wait and see for the future. But yeah, we try and put out something for everybody on our Twinkl Parents socials.
Lovely. And of course, you've got your own page on the Twinkl website. So I'll put everything there in the episode description. So you're just a click away for our lovely listeners. Thank you so much. You're going to go to sleep tonight and remember all those funny stories now. And I know I'm going to get messages. So I can't wait for those messages. Thank you.
I just feel like I've let you down because I haven't got anything that good
yet.
Yet.
You were a teacher for 9 to 10 years. Like, there's going to be some stories, and you've got your own children.
I think I've repressed it, to be honest.
Which a lot of parents and carers can probably relate to. Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, until you send me those messages, have a lovely day, and we'll see you another time.
You too, lovely. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So that's it for today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you would like to join in or would like to know more, then come and find us on our social media sites. We have a Facebook page, Facebook groups, an Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube. All the links of where to find us will be in our podcast description. Come and join the conversation. And whatever you're doing today, I hope you have a great day.